I'm so mature, I got me a therapist to tell me there's other men I don't want none. I just want you. If I can't have you, no one will. I might. Welcome to Andsoph. Let me stop. Welcome back to Andsoph Podcast. Hey everybody. This is Andsoph Podcast Season 2, Episode 2. I'm your host, Sophie Wade, and this is my podcast for ordinary people with extraordinary impact. Thank you for tuning in today, whether you are watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I appreciate you, and make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss an episode, and follow those pages so that you always know when a new episode is here, y'all. But I'm so excited to be with you guys once again, and very excited for this episode because a lot of people have asked me what my experience has been in therapy. For some people, it works. For some people, it doesn't work. Some people love it. Some people don't recommend it. We're going to get into all of that today, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what my experience over the years has been like with a therapist during school, after school, post-grad life, through different life transitions and events. And I'm gonna give y'all the 411. I'm gonna give y'all the 411 on what it's been like. So make sure you stay tuned. I feel like there's so many different things that I did before I did therapy, or the times when I wasn't doing therapy, that just felt like therapy, you feel me? Like listening to certain music, listening to certain podcasts, playing certain games, And one of those games is called We're Not Really Strangers. And if you're new here, we love that game here. We really do. And so I'm going to be playing a quick little round, but this time it's going to be giving self-love because nobody's here with me today. It's just us. It's just us yapping. So we're going to be playing We're Not Really Strangers, self-love. Let's get into it. Yeah, my computer is tripping today. Ah. Okay, you guys, we're back. Okay, the first question, when do I feel my best? What am I wearing? What am I doing? Create that day for yourself as soon as possible. Okay, when do I feel my best? I feel my best when the sun is sunning, the hair is giving either with the braids or with the natural curls. What am I wearing? I'm probably honestly wearing like a comfy, cozy sweater or jacket and some comfy, cozy jeans, like mom jeans. And I'm probably wearing Air Forces. And then, what am I doing? I'm probably with my friends on some spontaneous adventure at the beach or a road trip or something else like that. Next. Okay, the second question is, what's the biggest improvement I've seen in myself this past year? I feel like this past year, my prayer life has been so different and it's felt so much more genuine and less forced. I think towards the end of last year, I felt a little disconnected in my prayer because I felt a little disconnected to God. But this past year, I feel like I've seen myself actually really dive deeper into my prayer life when it comes to situations where I feel like really anxious or uncertain or overwhelmed or sad or confused or frustrated. I've been able to prepare my heart a little more, I feel like, coming into different things. And so that's been really, really helpful, and it's something I wish I did before. What compliment do I hear most that isn't about my physical appearance? Probably that I have a calming energy. I guess. I don't know if that's actually a compliment. Is it? I take it as a compliment. What am I proudest of myself for saying no to recently? I'm proud of myself for saying no to listening to too much sad music. I've been trying to listen to less sad music all at once, y'all, because I feel emotions very deeply. I do love a good sad song, don't get me wrong, and I will still keep listening to sad music, don't get me wrong. But I don't want that to be the only thing I listen to. I've been trying to listen to some upbeat things. I've been trying to listen to more podcasts during times when I need to fill the silence. And I feel like sometimes just having times of silence is good. Don't need to always be blasting music in my ears. I know that sad music can trigger certain memories or certain feelings, or just have you dwelling or thinking about stuff that you just really didn't want to think about in that current moment. So sometimes you do gotta let it play. Like, you do gotta let it play. But other times, I'm like in a good mood, having a good day, and I'm not trying to think about that other life. That's what I'm proud of myself for saying no to, among a lot of other things, which I will eventually share on this podcast. Okay, last one is, what is one thing that I'll never change about myself? One thing that I feel like I'll never change about myself is how deeply I feel emotions. Part of me hates that I feel emotions so deeply, because I feel like I get really sad really deeply. But I also get really happy very deeply. I feel love very deeply. But I feel like on the opposite end of that, like I was just saying, like there's hurt, deep disappointment, deep heartbreak. And so I feel like in those moments, I'm just like, dang, I just wish I wasn't such a deep feeler. Like I wish I was more logical, but I'm grateful that I have a lot of people in my life that I feel like help balance that out. Like I have a lot of logical people in my life. I have people that are less emotional, and then I also have people that can relate with me that do kind of have that same kind of reaction, or that same kind of, or the same type of feeler, like the same type of deep feeler. And so it's good to have conversations with both, because it's good to have people that relate with you and empathize with you, and then other people that can help you see things in a new way that you maybe wouldn't have been able to see. So that's one thing though that I would never change about myself, because even though I hurt deeply sometimes, I would never be able to love deeply. And I love being able to love people deeply as well. So yeah. So that's a wrap on the We're Not Really Strangers self-love question. So interesting. Let's get into the therapy journey, y'all. I want to talk about what initially led me to start therapy. So I started therapy first through my school counseling services when I was in my junior year. Junior year, guys, I was like, wait, no, it was sophomore year. Oh, wait. Yes. And guys, the weirdest thing is, like, every time it's on my heart to start therapy, it is like weeks before something crazy happens. I'm telling you, it happens every time. But I just felt this urge to try it because I had never tried it before. So I was like, might as well, because it's covered by my tuition that I'm paying. So I might as well take advantage of these services. So if you're still in school, please take advantage of your university's services. Try it out. If you hate it, don't do it anymore, but at least try it. I just kind of was placed with just like a random therapist. Like I never really could choose. My therapist, super sweet, super nice, super chill. The first week I was just like, I'm super stressed with assignments and school, and it's just a lot. And that was kind of like my focus of the first time. The second week, between the first session and the second session, that was a very traumatic event had happened in between that, which was Daniela's passing, which if you're new to the podcast, Daniela was one of my best friends that inspired the name behind this podcast, Andsoph, who passed away very unexpectedly in a car accident during that same year, during that same week. And so I came back into this therapy session with a whole different mindset on what I wanted to get out of it. Like before, it was like I wanted to focus on, trying to deal with full stress and being overwhelmed and stuff. But this time, y'all, it was gonna be about grief. I had opened up to her about how that was, and it was honestly mostly just me, just talking, crying, all of that. The following sessions after that, like that one, I was like, okay, that felt good because I was able to get everything out of my system. And then I remember I said one thing and I was just like, I just like, it's so crazy that God allowed this to happen. And I remember she just said like, maybe sometimes God makes mistakes. And I remember being like, are you even allowed to say that as like a therapist? Like I was like, oh, that felt like opinionated, you feel me? So she was like, sometimes God makes mistakes. And I was like, okay, queen, I'll catch you next session. I just remember like one time I was like bringing up how I was feeling these really heavy feelings, like very concerning. And, when you're feeling these concerning feelings and you bring them up, I feel like it's good to have a respectful, calm response. So I told her how I was feeling, and then she's just like, oh, like, so you're not like actually gonna like, do those things, right? Like, you're not actually gonna do those things, right? And I was like, no, probably not, because I don't really know how. And then she was just like, started laughing. So I didn't really feel super connected to this therapist in terms of that time of my life. I was like, I don't really think therapy is for me, and I didn't go to therapy for a while. And then I started going back to therapy again towards my senior year of school. So it'd been about like maybe a year or two since I had last been in therapy, and I went through outside sources outside of my school, and I was able to find someone specifically that I wanted to connect with. And so I was able to choose my therapist and look for therapists that have specializations in specific things. And so I had found my therapist. I was super excited. And our therapy sessions went pretty good as well for the most part. But those eventually turned into more interview style too, where it was just like, did you eat today? Okay, like, like it was like a checklist. But honestly, I love that she had like way more of like some personality. Like she was kind of funny, and I think she did help me in terms of being able to come up with some different routines that I could do for self-care and stuff, and maybe be able to process some of the things I was feeling during my senior year. I took a break from therapy again, and I realized that there actually is different types of therapy, and that the type of therapy that I was looking for more was CBT. And that type of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, is more of kind of like if a therapist gave you some homework each week of different things to do specifically tailored to you. And the therapist I currently have is a holistic therapist, and she also uses CBT as well. And I feel like that has been super helpful to kind of come up with new perspectives and frameworks that I can use for different situations. And I feel like I'm making the most out of my time, because I feel like you only have so much time in a therapy session. Like some of them are only like 45 minutes, 30 minutes. And so you can't like fix your entire life in those 30 minutes, and there's always new stuff coming up. So I try my best to like prioritize what I'm going to talk about, like what's really on my heart. And a lot of the times that is something that has deeper roots that kind of affects a lot of different things in my life. So I end up being able to apply it to other things, even if I couldn't talk about everything. But the way that I went about finding this therapist, I did extensive research on specific therapists, again, ones that contribute or that kind of aligned with what I was hoping for culturally, like Black women therapist. I looked that up, and then I looked up Black women therapists that specialize in CBT, looking up specific things on grief and different things like that. And for me specifically, I'm kind of like in a transition in my career where I'm really figuring out like what I really want to do now that I'm like in the real world. I've experienced post-grad and everything. I've experienced different jobs. I've experienced not having a job and having to just take whatever comes. And now I'm just like, there's so much emotional parts, I feel like, of that as well. I needed somebody to process that with, and also come up with a plan for how I was going to look differently at my career and like have a different approach to it than the hopeless approach that I had kind of gotten. And then you can have like a free consultation or phone call usually with them to kind of see if you guys fit each other's vibes. And then after I had like narrowed it down to the two that I feel like I connected most with, that might be most helpful in this time of my life. And then I just emailed both of them, and I was like, whoever responds is the one that I think God wants me to choose. And then the therapist I currently have is the one that responded. So it was kind of a lot, but it wasn't too bad. Like, it wasn't as much work as you think. The hardest part is just starting, because I feel like for a while I was like, I'm gonna go back to therapy, I'm gonna go back to therapy. But I didn't really prioritize it. And now I prioritize it more than like wanting to go to trips or buy expensive things or get new clothes and stuff like that. Like, it is like up there with like health. Like, my mental health is up there. So I've been like prioritizing that and being able to invest in myself in that way. And so I think that's what honestly motivated me to take therapy more seriously, that it wasn't just an extra thing, but it was like an essential thing for me. And I had hoped that it would be a little bit better. And I feel like within like social media and stuff, I feel like it's very like encouraged to go to therapy and things like that. I feel like within my family, we didn't always talk about therapy and stuff, but when I did tell my parents I was going to therapy, they were very supportive of me, which I'm really grateful that they didn't invalidate me for that, because sometimes I even invalidate myself and I'm like, well, I haven't gone through nearly as much as this person has gone through, or somebody like this, so maybe I don't need therapy. But we all need therapy. All of us. Every last one of us. We all need therapy of some shape or form. And there's different types of therapy. There's individual therapy, there's couples therapy, there's group therapy, there's in-person therapy, there's online therapy, which we love. Yeah, so I'm very grateful. And I know not all families, especially families of color, I feel like are not always have been culturally known to be very supportive of therapy or encouraging, because I feel like therapy has like this really big stigma. Like, if you go to therapy, it's like there's something wrong with you, and like people are just like, oh. The whole point of going to therapy is to get help. Like, why would you not want this person to go to therapy? Why would you not want them to be the best version of themselves? And I feel like within church too, I feel like there has been a lot of therapists who have been in leadership, which I feel like is really cool, really needed, that I've seen. There's another spectrum of where people are like, why would you go to therapy? You just need God. Like, you shouldn't. And I think that, you know, if you are making your therapist your God, then that's a whole other story, because your therapist is only with you within that small window of time. They have not known you for your entire life. Like, they are professionals. They're really amazing and gifted at what they do, but they cannot like be your ultimate savior. Like, I feel like they're just like a tool. Like, to me, I see therapists as a tool and a gift from God, but I don't see therapy as God or like my replacement from God, because I feel like there's so many things that I learn from my own spirituality that I feel like are things that I didn't learn in therapy, that I wouldn't have been able to learn without being able to do that work myself outside of therapy. And there's different things you can connect within therapy with God, or whatever religion you practice or whatever you believe in. You can connect it with outside, but it doesn't have to be your God. You feel me? But I don't think that it should be discouraged among the church community, because it is very important. I go to a therapist, she's not somebody from the church. So, you know, some people might have something to say about that, but nothing in my experience has like made a difference in that. But I feel like if you are able to find somebody who you feel like you really want them to align in that way too, like they're a Christian as well, or they're this or they're that, like, do it. Like, it's so important, I feel like, to have a therapist who understands your identity or your culture or your background in a different way. So I think definitely prioritize that. If it's religion, if it's ethnicity, if it's sexuality that you feel like you'll feel more comfortable to open up to. People who choose to be in therapy are very strong. And so I think that we shouldn't make each other feel bad about getting help, and we should support each other. But that's just me. Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing that I've been able to learn in therapy so far, I feel like it's just the way that I frame my narratives. I feel like about the different things going on in my life with like career, with my relationships with different people in my life, with where I am in my faith. I feel like I had such a like specific narrow perspective. I feel like that's rooted from a lot of it rooted from not feeling like enough, and that's something that has happened from my childhood and past experience of hurt that have bled into my adulthood today. And being able to have a different mindset on that and the way that I approach and the way that I ask questions, I feel like has completely changed the way I view myself and my self-worth. And the biggest thing I've been working on is my confidence, guys. My confidence to be able to go after the jobs that I really want and to be able to dream big again for the things that I hope to have, and to be able to create healthier, more loving relationships with people that don't have to follow the same patterns, and to be able to finally have a different perspective on my faith, where it's a lesson that I literally talked about last year in the podcast, and I'm still learning about how your faith should not be you worshiping the approval of others, because that is going to disconnect your relationship with God and change your entire view of faith. And so I feel like I've been able to work through a lot of those areas and come up with different ways to create more boundaries within those things, and to be a better listener, to be a better communicator. But I know that for some, you try therapy and you don't like it. And I think that's okay. If therapy is not for you, it's okay, because therapy is not for everyone. And if you have like coping skills outside of that, I think that's amazing. I know that therapy is also not accessible to everybody either. And that if your insurance doesn't cover it, it can be really expensive. Even with insurance, sometimes it can be expensive. So I acknowledge that as well. And I feel you, because I'm literally paying for it out of pocket. And it's not cute, guys. It's not cute. Some of the things that I like to do that I was doing when I was not in therapy, guys, I was journaling all the time. The mad, sad, glad, afraid, embarrassed method. You will get everything out for sure. And something about writing things down and seeing them on paper kind of helps you to rationalize things a little bit more than just purely being emotional. And I think that what else has been helping me is reading self-help books. I love books that relate specifically to what season I'm going through in life, whether it's grief, celebration, unknown. I love a good self-help book. So reading definitely helps educate yourself. And I also love listening to other podcasts. I love listening to this one podcast called Woman Evolve. I posted about it before. It's really amazing for you girlies who are trying to be like entrepreneurs or girl bosses, or just have a transformation moment. And so I love Woman Evolve. It's so funny, it's so relatable, it's so cutesy, so fun. I love listening to podcasts. I love also being outside in nature. I love going to the park by myself. I love doing these things called butterfly walks with my friend Blair, who was the first guest on Andsoph. We are besties and we love a little butterfly walk. When life is lifing, y'all, we'll see us, and every single time we'll see a butterfly, and then something crazy will happen, crazy good. And it's amazing, it's beautiful. So I think when you're able to find those things outside of therapy, that's amazing too. That is my thoughts so far on therapy. So overall, I'm really grateful for my experience, because I feel like it's going to help me so much long term. Like, even if I were to stop therapy right now for whatever reasons, I feel like there's so many gems that I feel like I can take with me into my future of this year and dealing with different things. And it's just so nice to not feel like you're crazy for feeling something, or you're insane, or you're just like you're overthinking, or there's something wrong with you. Like, it's so nice to be validated by a professional, y'all, and to not have a biased view. Like, sometimes our friends and family may have biased views on certain situations or things, so it's nice to have that safe space and to think about certain questions that you maybe wouldn't think about, or do certain exercises that you wouldn't think about. If you're looking into therapy and you want to do it affordable type of therapy, I will have a link down below. Shout out to Addie for showing me Open Path Collective. It is a way to access affordable therapy resources. I will be putting it down below, and you can put specific things that you're looking for as well. But I hope you consider therapy if you're thinking about it. If you haven't tried it and you want to go back, hopefully this inspires you too. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Andsoph, and make sure that you guys stay tuned. We're gonna have episodes every other Friday. So follow the Instagram so you know when there's gonna be new episodes, as well as other content in between. And also follow our TikTok as well. TikTok is back up and running. TikTok was deleted off my phone for like a month, and it was the most amazing therapeutic thing for me, honestly, but I got it back for the sake of this podcast. So that's another form of therapy. Get rid of TikTok, guys. But if you absolutely need to get back on, I'll be on there with you for a little bit. There's also our YouTube channel. So if you're watching, hey guys, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening, make sure you head to the YouTube channel to subscribe. And if you're watching, make sure you follow our Spotify and Apple podcast pages so you can listen to this wherever you are. That is it for this episode, y'all. This is Andsoph Podcast. I was your host, Sophie Wade. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.